Trump administration to fire 16,000 probationary federal workers for now. The decision rescinds a lower court order that those workers be reinstated as the legal battle plays out. Let's bring in senior Washington reporter Devin Dwyer for more. Devin, what went into this decision?
Diane, this was a challenge brought by 9 labor unions for federal employees and a bunch of nonprofit groups. They had sought to challenge the dismissal of roughly 16,000 probationary workers. Those are federal workers who have been on the job for less than a year. They were dismissed en masse in the early days of the Trump administration. A number of those groups said that was done illegally by the Office of Personnel Management, simply dismissed across the board. A federal district court judge put a hold on those, said the Trump administration needed to reinstate those workers, that it was likely illegal the way that they were fired. But today, the Supreme Court reversed that decision. It's whiplash here in Washington, Diane, and that now the Trump administration can proceed with the termination of those workers. The judges basically at the lower court, Diane, never questioned the government's power to fire these workers. It was just how it was done. But the Supreme Court today said actually these labor unions don't have standing to even take on that challenge. They said that these groups had not shown enough evidence that they are directly harmed to be able to bring this case. And so for now, even as the litigation moves forward, these workers will be off the job effective immediately going forward, Diane.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all having a great and wonderful day. Well, what we have here is that the Supreme Court gave Trump a victory, although a temporary victory. It is a victory nonetheless of him being able to deport some illegal immigrants, all right? So that is a good thing. But I don't know how long this will last. I don't know how long this will be. But hopefully it is enough to get Trump his job to get the things done. Now, there's going to be a few things here I'm going to be going over that I think that are kind of insane, and why we even have the federal trying to boss around the executive, because it makes no sense. They just don't have the power to do so. I mean, we have tiers of a governmental system for a reason, and to overpower that is a breach and a problem in our judicial system. So what we have here from the Washington Post is pretty much the Supreme Court briefly pauses order to return deportee from El Salvador. So this is a good victory. Now there's going to be more, so give it a second here. So it says the fate of a Maryland man mistakenly deported to a mega prison in El Salvador remained in limbo Monday after the Supreme Court briefly paused an order requiring the Trump administration to bring him back to the United States. The lower court had told the government by flight Kilmer Abrego Garcia to the U.S. by 11:59 p.m. Monday. The Salvadoran immigrant who is married to a U.S. citizen was deported despite a court ruling forbidding it. Supreme Court Justice John G. Roberts Jr. gave Abrego Garcia's attorney until Tuesday to respond to the government's request to allow his deportation to stand while litigation over the matter continues. The truncated timeline indicates the Supreme Court is likely to act quickly in the case. Abrego Garcia's lawyers submitted their findings shortly after the administration's stay was announced. One of them, Simon Moschenberg, said in a statement that we have every confidence the High Court will resolve the case as quickly as humanly possible. So, yeah, apparently what happened is apparently a 29-year-old El Salvadoran person was an American citizen. All right, that's pretty much the quickest way or easiest way I can pretty much put it. And he was sent back to El Salvador. So this is part of the reasons why. Now, I'm going to be giving you some of the reasons on why I think like this and what have you, but we're going to go do this right here, right? So right now, we have this where the Supreme Court sides with Donald Trump in the deportation fight. Says the U.S. Supreme Court on Monday issued a ruling allowing the Trump administration to use the Enemies Act to deport people from the U.S., but said they must get a court hearing before deportation. Now, after a few sentences, I'm going to be explaining why this is kind of a problem. Contents. President Donald Trump has been in the spotlight as his administration seeks to deport millions of people as part of a federal crackdown on illegal immigration, which is a good thing. That fight took a center stage last month after the government deported more than 200 Venezuelan nationals who the U.S. alleges to have ties to the violent Agua gang. What to know? In a 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court granted the administration's emergency request and overturned a court ruling that had temporarily halted deportation of the Alien Enemies Act while legal challenges proceeded. The majority decision said, however, that detainees must still be given an opportunity to present their case to a judge before being removed from the U.S. The temporary order came hours after the Justice Department emergency appeal to the Supreme Court argued the U.S. District Judge Paula Exenis overstepped her authority when she ordered the Kilmore Abrego Garcia, a married resident who was deported to El Salvador last month, be returned to the United States. Yes, because again, they are a U.S. District Judge, and the fact of the matter is that they have no power over the executive branch. I don't understand on why the executive judges or why these federal judges think that they have power and the ability to overwrite a executive branch. It's like they don't understand our levels of government. It's like the executive branch can't overpower the Congress branch. It's not possible. It's like the executive branch issues laws or comes up with laws, and then the Congress puts the laws into place. That's the way it works. It's not like you can have the federal branch here go put up an actual law or whatever and let it be allowed. There's some things that have to be there are things that have to be done before you can even make some of these laws. So I don't know what we're doing here exactly when we're coming down to specifically laws or rules are being forced by a federal court that has no power over executive or vice versa. It's like I would have the same problem if I had the Donald Trump administration try to issue things that should be done at the congressional level because they don't have the power to do so. It's insane. So this is my problem. Now, right now we'll be going over to exactly on the Whole Deportations Act and kind of doing this. Says what we have here is that in her ruling, saying he should be returned to the U.S. extended Congress to the DOJ as a grievous error, adding that it shocks the conscience. The Supreme Court, in its unsigned majority opinion, AIE detainees must receive notice after the date of this order that they are subject to removal under the Act. The notice must be afforded within a reasonable time and in such a manner as well as to allow them to actually seek habeas relief in the proper venue before such removal occurs. So, that being said, and we'll also go with Sotomayor because she's a terrible person. But regardless, the government's conduct in this litigation puts an extraordinary threat to the rule of law, and we as a nation and court of law should be better than this. Okay, so that's what I have to say about this. All right. So the issue that I have with this is if we have to, for every single person that we have to deport, right? We had to go through an actual law or a system to where we have to choose, okay, we cannot deport this person. Well, the problem is we'll never deport anybody because if we have to go through a law or whatever, these things take time and whatever to go through this. And the fact of the matter is, if it takes time to do this, we're not going to deport anybody in a reasonable amount of time because, well, guess what? We have, guess what? It's like, we won't have the ability to deport them because it takes all this time for these people to get through their court cases and what have you. And by the time that's done, it takes months or whatever to get it done. This is a huge issue. Majority is like I understand that we have issues that if we're going to be getting rid of deporting some American citizens, this is a very, very big problem, right? I understand that's an issue, and we have to be very, very careful on how we do things. However, if it happens, it happens. Like we have to make sure that that we deport all these illegals. Like in almost every instance, when it comes down to things like this, right? When it comes down to deporting mass amount of people, you're probably going to have a few innocents or whatever being put into jail or whatever being deported. It's the same thing with our jail system or judicial system. There are going to be times when we are going to jail people or what have you that are not supposed to be jailed. It's going to happen. Now, it can be a very, very low percentage, right? So that being said, if it's a very, very low percentage of this happening, then okay. So, for instance, if this person's been deported and he's put into El Salvador in jail, well, the fact of the matter is that what we can do is like, okay, if this person's been wrongly deported, okay, then we immediately put them back into the United States and be like, okay, we'll put you back in the United States, and then after that is like we'll reimburse you, we'll give you like X amount of money for grievances or damages, etc. That's what the government should do if they made a mistake to an American citizen, and then what have you. And then if they were actually need to be deported, then we send them back, we refund all the money and whatever. The money will be on a hold until we can get all the paperwork done. And then after, it proves that he's actually an American citizen, he's not illegal or whatever, okay, then he gets the money and it goes forward. That's the way things should be done. But right now, we have to deport these people, and we have to go through laws and all this stuff to deport them. We're never going to deport anybody. That is a problem. Now, what we have here is the evil person that we have, Amy Coney Barrett. This person is part of the worst thing that Trump has ever elected. I think we did this back in the time as a DEI hire to prove that we do not hate women, but I digress. This has been proving to be a major issue. Now, what we have here is a problem. Now, let's look at the Supreme Court, all right? So, if we look at the Supreme Court and we see exactly who is on the Supreme Court versus who is not on the Supreme Court. So, let's see here. So, I want you guys to see exactly what our problem is. And you women, ladies, you're not going to like this, all right? I understand you're not going to like this, and it is what it is. So, we're going to zoom in on the Supreme Court here, and we're going to see the amazing outlier of all this. Notice one thing. We have 4 gentlemen and 4 women. Now, what is the biggest problem here? The 4 women are liberals. The 4 women are far left. This is consistent with the statistics of majority of the women being leftists. And again, this is another problem when we have women majority of women going off of emotion, and this is a problem. This is the reason why I do not think why people, when women go out and do this type of stuff, right, it actually hurts them. Because it shows that women cannot decide and do things outside of emotion, and they'll only vote and do actions inside of emotion, and that will make people not want to vote for you because you cannot be trusted to do things what's right without going off of your emotion. That is a huge problem. All 4 of these women voted against something because it makes them feel some type of way. That's just the reality. Amy Coney Barrett is a rhino. Amy Coney Barrett is a liberal. That's what she is. And I think we have a discussion here on how many times we keep on letting these women come into our high judicial power and they're going to be voting for emotion. It's a huge problem. She is a DEI. So we're going to be reading through a little bit of this. What's going on here? Sorry, ladies. I hate to break it to you, but that's just the way it is. That when you are deciding off of emotion, you are not making the best decisions for everybody. You're just going off of emotion and nothing else. So it says here, conservative Supreme Court Judge Amy Coney Barrett has sided with the court's liberal wing in opposing the use of wartime legislation to deport civilians, but did not agree with some criticisms of the Trump administration. Again, civilians, because this kind of like emotional tug. She feels some type of way that it's bad. She doesn't think that it is a more logical practice here that would best serve the country. It says Coney Barrett, who's nominated by Trump, has emerged as a centrist judge with a key role in deciding a major Supreme Court crisis. No, she's a liberal. On April 7th, the U.S. Supreme Court allowed Trump administration to use Wartime Alien Enemies Act to deport criminal suspects from the U.S., but said they must go get a court hearing. Because honestly, it comes after the Trump administration deported more than 200 Venezuelan nationals whom the U.S. alleges have ties to the Trinidad Agua gang. So we all know about this stuff, right? So it goes on to say here that Amy Coney Barrett was the sole conservative to dissent, siding with 3 liberal judges, Elena Congan, Sonia Sotomayor, and Khadijah Brown. Now look at these people. As I said here, that's a female. This is a female. This is a female. Okay? So these are 4 females. All right? However, Coney Barrett was very careful in choosing which parts of Sotomayor's strategy dissenting opinion she supported. While Kagan and Brown Jackson put their names to Sotomayor's dissenting opinion in total, Coney Barrett only agreed with Part 2 and Section Part B of Part 3. That means that while Coney Barrett agreed with Sotomayor's overall opinion, she avoided some of those Sotomayor's most colorful criticisms of the Trump administration. For example, in part 1, Sotomayor alleged that the Trump administration was trying to covertly deport people without judicial oversight. Sotomayor wrote the government's plan it appeared as was to rush passengers out of the country before a court could decide whether the president's vacation of the Alien Enemies Act was lawful or whether these individuals were in fact members of the Tren de Agua, which is absurd. Coney Barrett agreed entirely with part 2 of Sotomayor's opinion, which is far more conciliatory in tone and finds common ground with the court's conservative majority. Here, Sotomayor notes that, whatever, blah, 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 I'm not going to care about that. Beginning with that, upon all 9 members of this court agree, the court's order today dictates in no uncertain terms that individuals subject to detention and removal and under the Alien Enemies Act are entitled to judicial review as to questions of interpretation and constitutionality of the act, as well as whether he or she is in fact an alien enemy 14 years of age or older, Sotomayor wrote, which is again stupid. However, Coney Barrett did not shy away from criticizing the court's conservative majority for taking the case on an emergency basis without letting it first go through the normal federal appeal court system, which is a problem because if, as I said before, if we go through that system, we're not going to deport people in a meaningful amount of time. We won't get anything done. We had to go after something that happens in the situation here because, again, how many people has this happened? We have deported about thousands to almost hundreds of thousands of people, and we end up deporting one American citizen out of that. That is a very, very, very small percentage of people getting deported. So, an American citizen getting deported, all right? So, that being said, I don't see this being too big of an issue. Like I said, we're going to have problems that arise here. Here she agreed with that should be a part 3, in which Sotomayor criticized the Supreme Court majority for hurriedly overruling a Washington, D.C. District Judge, James Joseph, who faulted the deportations. Again, this is all, why are you siding with a liberal judge and saying we're doing this? So, again, this is the problem that we're doing here. She is the horrible decision. She is a DEI hire. She is terrible. She is a liberal, and that is just the fact of the matter is. We have to be shutting the Supreme Court collectively here, and I think that we have to have a serious discussion on letting women being in these high positions of power when majority of them are voting against the American people. Majority of them are. Like, this is just straight up fact. And if you're only going to go off of emotion and not go off of rationality, then this is what we have a huge problem with. Alright guys, that's it for the video. Please subscribe, share. As always, take care, my friend.